practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages, as well as all the lyrics of all the top rock songs. And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun.
This is a special request. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimilla, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Yes, welcome to yet another installment of the Adam Dunn Show. I'm your host, Adam Dunn, and I'm kind of lonely again. No big head. I lost my head. Damn. Well, I might be here later. We'll see. Classic morning, you know, one of those like driving in here, growing away, and then realized I didn't have my key to the lab, so I was like, no. So we'll actually have to get, we'll get all my little props and stuff a little later. One of them is a new product which I want to show you guys that are from our sponsors at Way to Grow. It is, it's interesting. I'll have to show it to you. It's kind of one of those, you know, better just to show it than to talk about it. But I will have that later. Once again, the most infamous non-guest guest ever, Sheldon Reed, will maybe show up. We'll see. It's like, I don't know, how many weeks have I been waiting for my coffin bag now? 4, 5? Yeah, 4 weeks. It's not so long, you know. It's only been around me, like surrounding me forever. But hopefully I get one of my coffin bags in here. We'll show you that. It's got everything included, Joel Halen rig, torch, tane, the whole 9 yards. We hope he comes in because since I didn't have my key, I don't have a rig with me either here. So
when you buy the bag, it comes with the rig.
Anything and everything you want, yes. You want the bag loaded or you want the bag empty. It's up to you because some people have their own rigs, of course. But yeah, this, so hopefully Sheldon's going to come swing on through and we'll talk about that. I gave a call out to Uruguay today because if you haven't heard, they did pass their vote, which is pretty awesome. I wanted to get the details though from our guy Gato down there because he can give us a little insight on, because there's some weird talk. There's some talk about certain strains have to be grown, or I don't know. Sounds a bit weird, and it sounds like another unpoliceable thing. I think the one thing that people don't realize is like once you open the gates to cannabis, it's pretty much open. There's no like, oh well, that one or not this one, and what about that one? It's too much work to police and to run around and check, and there's really nothing to worry about. So it's almost like, you know, when they talk about high THC versus low THC or whatever, it just means you smoke less cannabis and it's actually safer for you. So really, the stronger it is, the better it is, because it means your harm reduction is increased because of the fact that you're not smoking as much, you know. So it's pretty simple mathematics. It's like people who smoke light cigarettes all day long and just pound them, you know what I mean? They'd probably be better off smoking one Sherman or sort of cigar-y kind of thing, knock them on their ass or whatever, and then boom, move on from there. What else we got? We're trying to get our buddy Gustavo from the BIG show, which is coming here to Colorado. Most people might not be familiar with it. This is another trade show. It was a consumer level trade show also, so that anybody can go check it out, which is awesome. And it will be for, well, it's both. It's buyers and consumers. So it's basically all the latest products, whether it be vaporizers or pens or glass, lifestyle things. We'll be there also with Hood Lamb and for Hood Lab here in Colorado, repping hard, trying to, you know, this is going to be like a pretty interesting week though. It's going to be the 14th, 15th, and 16th of April, so it's pretty much like right before the craziness goes down. And this year, 420, coincidentally enough, it is on a Sunday, and it's on Easter Sunday, which I think is going to be pretty damn interesting to see how the world responds to the fact that our holiday is now crossed over onto their big sacred holiday. And, you know, Easter being one of those holidays that as a kid, you know, we thought of the Easter Bunny or something like that. Nobody was really looking at the religious side of it all, but it is quite a religious holiday, so it is going to be great to see the contrast of the types of people that are going to be like out celebrating their holiday, you know. So Confusing holiday this year, 420 Easter combo. Should be a good one, I think. That should be a...
Little eggs that you open the can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, nug eggs will be everywhere. They're going to be... Kids are going to be finding nug eggs for days, I think. It's going to be quite fun. But, and then, let's see. Also wanted to give you guys... I figure I'd just go right off the front end because I'm already getting questions about it. We're almost done with our 315 harvest. It's 4 times 315, so it's 1260 in the room. I don't know about the weight yet because it's not dry, and you can don't ever count your chickens before they hatch. I mean, the minute you start overestimating, you're going to be disappointed. And I mean, obviously, it'd be great if you underestimated. I don't think anybody does that. It's always overestimating. So I'm not going to say anything about the weights, but I will say that the quality is just... I mean, it seems off the chain right now. The smell is, if I go into my other rooms where my 1,000 watts are at and I smell at 5 weeks, I don't even come close. You know what I mean? These plants from about week 3, they just started to reek hard. I mean, they already smelled a little bit in the beginning, but from week 3, they really started to just go off the chart and stank. So resin content, smell, visual, all 9s, you know what I mean, across the board. I don't know. I can't really say 10 because it's not a good idea to ever be satisfied with what you've got, but I'll give it a straight 9 across the board on all those points. Now, yield, I mean, I'm going to under-anticipate it and say I don't think it's going to be as, you know, off the chain as I thought, but I never really did think it was going to be off the chain because I was thinking it was going to be I was looking at it like, wow, this is never going to make it as good as 1,000 watt, but it really did. And really, I mean, like I said, proof is in the pudding, so we'll find out tomorrow, next day, start to get the weights in and see what the deal is, and I'll give you guys an update next week, and that will be 100% complete. But once again, if you're in a situation where heat's an issue or power is an issue, you know, whether you have like low, you know, you don't have a lot of amperage to to work with or something, yeah, these are definitely the miracle light for that situation. If you have a 1,000 watt high, you know, ceiling area where you normally can put like an open bulb, Kavita double-ended or E-Papillon or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be as big of a yielder as those lights are, but it's also going to consume about 1/3 of the power. So there's a little update for you guys. I know a few people were asking me, so I wanted to make sure we got that out of the way. Also, big news in Colorado, I guess, is that the votes have gone through and we are now allowed to smoke on our front balcony. Amazing. It's like we can now do what we've been doing for forever, basically. So it doesn't really change too much. I mean, just watch the movie Friday. What do they do? Sit out on the front porch smoking weed all the time. That's pretty much what they did. That's what we've been doing. Nothing's really changing, but we're now accepted as normal human beings while we do that instead of having to worry about it. So interesting, but they're still, it doesn't change either though, because still, if you smell something and you smell cannabis, you could still report it, and they could still come and hassle you. It's just a matter of where were you standing? Were you in the front of your house, behind your house, next to your house, in your house? And I don't really see it becoming a high priority anyway. I think it's going to be one of those, we just need to get through the motions now and like talk about it, and then it's over and we'll move on, because like I said, nobody wasn't smoking on their front balcony if they didn't want to, you know. So we got 2 big votes in. We got Uruguay and Denver. Both are the sister cities of cannabis, I'd say, and we both have a little victory there. Which we got a question.
Yeah, somebody asked, how much do the ceramic highlights cost?
They're about $400 right now, which is pretty reasonable when you consider that's for ballast, and that's for your ballast and your lamp. There's complete packages that are around $500 with like plug and play, but the ones that I'm using, they're like components. You know, you basically got to wire them yourself, and I'm kind of used to that because in Europe they don't have the same plug and play mentality. Everything we bought was always like, here you go, bunch of wires hanging off a box, you know, and I'd be like, wow, I didn't know I was now an electrician, you know. I thought I'd just plug it in. Are you kidding me? You need to wire it. You need to do. It was weird. It was like kind of they think everybody's an electrician or sitting at home doodling with their circuit boards and stuff. So I'm obviously appreciative of the plug and play mentality, but these lights, they're first generation, so they were I got them before they were all housed, and now they're all getting housings and UL listing and all that. So soon come, you can buy them directly. They'll be more expensive. Right now, they're about $400, but they're guts, you know. So then when you buy the complete package, they're going to be more like $500. And actually, right now, the 315 from ePapillon is like $700 or something. That's crazy. So the technology is not as cheap. That's why, of course, I went for the guts mentality. I want to go for. I don't need everything else. It doesn't need an air-cooled reflector, so there's no point of that. Even though I think they've got a new Raptor or something with them in it, which is kind of interesting. It's like the biggest hood for the smallest bulb ever, you know. And again, if you were going to retrofit your place, I guess you could throw one for every 1,000, but I would probably condense them down by about a foot or something, because you're definitely not going to get the same footprint out of a 315 as you will from 1,000. But you know, it definitely will put out enough. I mean, I think if you just stack them up, you know, almost hood to hood, sell a few hoods that way. And what else we got going on? I guess it's been a cold snap, man. Let me tell you, this whole last couple of weeks, I couldn't even think. Actually, it was like I was at the shop. We built a doorway at the lab because we have just a big open garage door, and it was like we couldn't build it fast enough. You know what I mean? It was like as we were building, Vinny, who will hopefully be in the show a little later, he was basically out there battling the cold, just trying to get a screw into the wood was like a challenge, you know, because your hands would just collapse under you're like, blah, and then the drill would never line up, and oh my God, it was horrendous. But anyway, so we survived. And now it's like 20 degrees and it feels like 100. It's weird. It's like, well, it's like getting out of a bath or something and, you know, jump back in and it's all warm, even though it was freezing a minute ago. It's like, yeah, you're definitely appreciating a little bit of warmth again. So Colorado's out of its little cold snap. I'm sure, you know, plenty of problems with, I mean, I have a HVAC guy that I'm trying to get to my place for a while, and he's so swamped with frozen pipes and broken down things. Right now, he's just like not even going to come for another week or something like that. So out of this little cold snap, and like I said, now it's feeling balmy. It's a balmy 40 degrees or something today, or what is it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's something like that. Little weather report here on the Adam Dunn Show. 27. See, 27, and I'm thinking it's 40 just because it's like, bam, this stuff is warm. So, yeah, we've got a pretty big weekend. I think the Secret Cup's coming this weekend also. So we are going to be bombarded with extract artists from all over the country coming in for the finals. So it should be interesting. There's going to be definitely a lot of people. I'm actually going out of town myself. I will be in San Francisco this weekend, so anybody who's out there wants to come check out the opening at the Hood Lab, it'll be on Friday, and it's going to be pretty interesting. We have 3 artists, and they're all such top grade artists that technically they should have their own shows. But because San Francisco being such a big art town, I guess we can pull it off. They've got Nate Van Dyke, Sam Flores, who did the custom jacket for us this year, and I think it was Joseph Rodriguez. And like I said, they're all top artists in their own right, and so it's going to be an epic show. And so during this weekend, I will be in San Francisco checking that out. This town is going to be bombarded with a million oil heads running around loving life. I think we're going to be, now we're down to a 3-week countdown until we can actually start to go wreck. It's going to be it's interesting to see, because basically I haven't heard much talk about it, but now I can feel the pressure building onto the government here of how they're going to pull this off. And they're definitely there's definitely some stress in the big. You saw the website that came out, right? The rules for Denver.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see that? Oh my gosh, it's pretty interesting because it's basically like what not to do in Denver. It's not about what you can do. It's most importantly what you can't do. Can't drive. Can't do this. Can't do that. Can't do that. You know, they basically make it so if you read it, it's like the most unhospitable way of like. So where do you smoke this stuff? I mean, you're going to come here. It's the same story we've been talking about before. They're going to come here, rent a place, and either get in trouble for smoking, which doesn't make sense because probably if you just air out your place in 5 minutes, it's over. You know what I mean? That's the one thing about cannabis, which I love, is it's not like cigarette smoke, which just lingers and sticks to you, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see. There's going to be, I mean, hundreds of thousands of tourists coming through, because it's not going to be just a trickle. It's going to be a wave of people coming through, and they're all going to be coming here thinking it's going to be easy. And I mean, like I've said since day one, I don't know. I think we're going to be out of cannabis on the second. I think it's going to be like shortages, because they're only talking like 5 or 6 shops will actually be ready to go. And when you start talking about thousands of people per store, that's a lot. That's going to be something they're not used to, for sure. And I mean, probably not. It probably turns out to be as mellow as, because that's the one thing also, we're talking about cannabis here, so people aren't going to be like going nuts for it. So they may be disappointed, but there's going to be a whole lot of scrambling around town trying to find the best product, and while it's still there, you know. Should be fun.
Jersey Waltz asked if you made any sage shatter to show us yet.
No sage shatter to show today. I got some super sour fire OG shatter, I think, somewhere. Let's see. We got this. All in good time, though. We will make sure we have. Here's some super sour here for the camera. Zoom it in. Very nice. That's today's shatter, brought to you by Super Sour Fire OG. From a seed crop too, though, so you know, from a seed crop ain't too bad. That is the one benefit of growing seeds and finally having something to do with it, because I used to always it's really hard to make good water with it because it's already been crushed up so much. You know, you just get all the chlorophyll in there, so it's kind of like kind of a bummer in that department. But for this, it's awesome. It can strip it right back. Tastes good. Seems real clean. So yeah, we'll get you some sage shatter in the future for sure. But you know, can't have it all. Everybody always wants to have like the strain that, you know, like for instance with seeds too. Like I want to try everything you have, you know, and it's like you have 30 strains. It's kind of hard to keep everything on shelf at all times. And that's one of the things I think cannabis, when people get into this industry, they realize it quickly. Like it's better to have, you know, you need your 3 or 4 good consistent things on the shelf at all times, because to try to keep 30 things on the shelf and keep them all good, it's pretty hard. So I mean, I would say everybody should, you know, try to stick to their guns, try to have 10 strains under their belt maybe, and try to keep 3 to 4 of those things just stellar at all times. You know what I mean? And that alone is a hard job, and it's kind of what I proposed to the Cannabis Cup years ago in Amsterdam. I was like, you know, when you do this all in one week, it doesn't really give it justice, because there's a whole 51 other weeks that are out there that people come to Amsterdam, you know, and then they roll into the store and they want to buy the weed that won the cup, and then it's never there, you know, because they just don't ever have the consistency. It's always like that week the weed is great, you know what I mean, and then the rest of the time it's like, it's all right. So I think it would be wise, especially once places are established, and maybe now we can do this idea over here, is just to do a year-long cup, you know, and never, like, the people who are serving you shouldn't even know that you're there for the cup, you know what I mean? They should just be serving you like a normal customer, and then you would see a really good result at the end of the year. You know, you'd be like, wow, these guys are really nice all year long, not just for a week, you know what I mean? And these people got good weed all year long, and they got good food all year long, you know, and that would be the kind of more logical way, I'd think, to do it. We'll see. I'm sure my ideas will get raped out there by somebody, you know, hopefully. That's the idea sometimes. Throw it out there. Maybe something will stick, you know, maybe somebody will grab it. And still waiting on our sidekick. I mean, he's going to be back next week, I think. Flargle will be back. I know everybody's really crying out there, because I've been hearing it. A lot of crying. Poor Flargle. I've had James. The problem is James interrupts me so much that I have a hard time keeping my train of thought. So I'd rather have Flargle back, because he's, you know, much less interruptive. You know, he never says anything really stupid or interruptive, or it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Never. I don't think that's ever happened. Well, maybe on every show, maybe a couple times. But yeah, so Flargle's going to be back for all you Flargle fans out there. Oh, is that him getting on there? He's getting excited. See, what kind of guest host doesn't even listen to his own show when he's out of town? I mean, that's might be looking for a new sidekick out there, everybody. If anybody's out interested in taking over Flargel's job, it's a hard one. You could pretty much do it from anywhere in the world. You could pretty much be sitting on the toilet and probably do his job, no problem. Just sit there, bam, call in. A little echo in the background will be nice. So what else has been happening in the Canada world these days? Not too much. We're in that.
The smoking, being able to smoke, but then you can only grow 12 plants.
Yeah, there's always good with bad, I guess. And then in Colorado and in Denver, they kind of limited it down to 12 plants per household when it comes to the city of Denver. Inspiration to grow bigger plants, I guess. It's the way it goes. I mean, if somebody tells you can grow 12, which is actually not a bad number because, you have them in rotation, 6 in rotation at all times. If you veg 6 plants for 8 weeks, the things are going to be beasts, you know what I mean? So if you're just vegging for 8 weeks while you're flowering for 8 or 9 weeks, give yourself maybe a week gap or something or whatever. But basically, yeah, if you're going to flower, say 9 weeks, and then you start a week into it and you veg those plants for 8 weeks and cut them back, you will have 2-pound plants indoors. So, I mean, 6 plants, 12 pounds, that's okay. I can deal with that, There's angles every time. Because even in Amsterdam, it was... When I first moved there, it was 50 plants, and I was just like, wow, 50 plants. You know what I can do with 50? You know how much damage I can do with 50 plants, And they started to, whittle it down until it was 5 plants. But even 5 plants, I was just like, well, still, we're going to make this, get 10 pounds out of this, no problem, And you can even do more. I mean, there's people pulling off 3-pounders indoors. They have multiple lights, of course. It's not one light. So it does come down to the coverage. And that's where those 315s would work out really well. Like if you vegged under those for 8 weeks, you would, first of all, you don't see much stretch with those lights. So that would be awesome, because you don't get this. I mean, that's the one thing. 8 weeks, trying to hold something back for 8 weeks can be a daunting task because you're in there every day trying to trim them back, and they're taking over as fast as you can cut them. So I think those lights would work really well. They keep really tight internodal length, almost to the point where I would want to throw sodium in there just to stretch them out because I kind of feel like they're not going to veg fast enough. But give them a nice long 8-week veg, man, those things would be incredible just because of the canopy would be as dense as I can imagine. I would think. So we can grow less plants, but we can smoke them out on our front porch. So there's the balance, I guess you would say. But if you take into account that the rest of the country doesn't have anything close to that for anybody over 21, I mean, there is medical, of course, in over 20 states. So there's plenty of people out there with the ability to grow. But for the fact that this is talking about anybody who's over 21, it's pretty monumental, especially when you consider that it's not like everybody smokes cannabis, but everybody has the ability now to grow, meaning that everybody could, empower themselves a little bit. Maybe they have a sick relative or, a friend who needs cannabis, and we're allowed to trade and give away, up to an ounce, no problem. And I mean, again, it's not really about the money. So just on the fact that, imagine it's Christmas coming up, right? If you didn't smoke cannabis and you managed to grow a crop all year long, you've just managed to grow yourself all your Christmas presents, for all your friends, because most people have a bunch of friends who smoke. And, if somebody gave me a big jar of cannabis, I'd be much happier than if they bought me a gift coupon for Best Buy or something so I could go buy myself some computer games or some bullshit. I would be more than stoked, And if the person didn't smoke cannabis but they were a good grower, which is there's plenty of them out there, then you'd even be more happy because that person wouldn't even realize the value of what they're giving to you, but they would very soon because you'd probably tell them every single time you saw them that time, wow, that was the best present I ever had for Christmas. Because definitely cannabis is one of those gifts where it's never a problem. even if the quality's not the best, whatever, you can always hand it off to somebody else. You can gift that gift. That's the one. It's the gift that keeps on giving until it's done, right? There's no ending, in sight. Here, boom, there you go, gift. And that's what Christmas is really all about, right? It's all about. I think it's more fun to give people gifts sometimes than to receive them. Not that I'm the best gift giver, but it is really nice when you actually pull it off and you know that that's the one for that person. Pretty awesome. So yeah, a little tip there to all you non-smokers who might be listening to the show: grow some cannabis, give it to your friends. You will have more friends, I guarantee.
Josie says, "Have you ever had trouble getting sage cuttings to root using peat pucks?"
I'm not really a big peat fan in general. The pH is kind of off, and they're a bit wet, and then they dry up too fast. You know what I mean? So there's a combination. I don't think it's the strain specific. I think it's the peat is kind of old. It's just old world. It's very acidic and kind of weird, and you just don't go. You got to like really be on top of your game with those. Just try rooting it in an easy cloner, because that's the name easy cloner is for a reason. And I swear to God, you could root a matchstick in that thing. You know what I mean? You could take a match, put it in there, and be like, dude, roots on the match. I don't know how I did it, but I got roots on a matchstick. I mean, it's like crazy how efficient those things are. So I would say use an easy cloner. If you can't get it out of an easy cloner, obviously rock wool and things like that. But if the thing about the peat is that it's very fine, it's almost too fine. So what happens is it holds water really great when you need it, let's say. But it's also got the acidic quality. So it's kind of like you're battling too many things: too much moisture, too much acidity, and then you're not concentrating on the plant itself. And so that would be my suggestion. Those Root Riot things work a little bit better. They work a little better, but there's still the problem with those is that they're pre-wet, and I can't, for the life of me, imagine that something could stay wet and stable for as long as it does. But I mean, they seem to work. But then the problem with those is that they're great when they're in your place, but then you hand them to somebody else or you bring them somewhere else, and they dry out before you ever have a chance to transplant them properly. It's been my experience, at least.
Hudson Valley Chris asks, how about ferts at about 200 parts per million? I have been told yes and no.
For rooting clones, yeah. The thing is, if they have roots, like even just the pre-nubs of roots, then it's okay to hit them with some food. But then if they don't have roots, there's absolutely no reason to put food in there. They're not going to respond. It's not like they're going to jump out because there's food there. Actually, it's kind of the opposite. When there's nothing there for them, as long as the water's clean and everything, and there's no pythium in it or anything like that, as long as it's they're actually so dying for some nutrients that they'll really push it out. So I find, and if you do any nutrients for your cuttings, it's going to be a flour formula. Most people start thinking like they need like a veg formula, but they actually, to root, it's more phosphorus and stuff. So you really want to actually hit them with if you're going to do any kind of food, it's going to be a super light flowering food, not a super light grow food. Because what happens when you put a nitrogen in there, you actually will inhibit the roots to grow. So but once the roots are growing, they can of course take nitrogen. So really, it's kind of like the pre part is like, you really should I would just do plain water. I don't see the point. Maybe a little bit of rooting hormone. But for the most part, there's really nothing in there that the plants need at that moment. But then once they pop roots, then you can sort of hit them once with the nitrogen, you hit them once with the phosphorus, so that will increase the rooting. And then once you see the first signs of like new growth, then you can hit them up with the nitrogen, and then they'll actually kind of want to hold them back too, because if you hit them with nitrogen too early, and they either you're going to thwart the rooting, or you're going to make some of them more vigorous than the others because they say they started to root. So now you have a whole tray with 2 plants that are just busting out, and then the rest of them are not. And that's kind of not the idea. You're trying to get them all nice and easy. There you go. A little explanation. But root, I mean, listen, cloning is one of those things where I think it's about what's like a comfort level. If you get to a good comfort level, you can pretty much clone anything, anywhere, and not really have a problem. And you get people who are just nervous the whole time while they're doing it, and they have a hard time ever getting them to root. And they overwater them, or they check them out way too many times a day and dry them out. It's just like, it's almost like less is more. And I think once you get real comfortable, it's just letting them do their thing, and barely having to really do much maintenance, because when you get real aggressive maintenance on clones, it's almost like you're your own worst enemy at that point, So that's what usually most people kill cannabis with love. I mean, that is the overall picture here. It's not usually because of malicious intent, because usually people are out to have a positive crop, but as we know, many things can happen along the way. So, and usually in the first couple weeks. So, clones are kind of like seedlings, where people overwater seedlings all the time too, because the things are just barely going. So you really have to kind of like edge them on a little bit and get them just enough, not too much, because saturate them when they're really young like that, and you'll cause more damage than good. The old drop the baby story, Oh, drop the baby, don't tell anybody, but it will come out later. You know what I mean? It's not then. It's not, you're not worried about now, you're worried about later. So it's a good idea to mention it to somebody. Mention you dropped the baby, by the way. Speaking of babies, my baby's doing really good. He was DJing last night. There was some pretty good set. He had a little good set. He's, year and a half, so he's pretty experienced at this point. Started when he was 7 months old. So, it's going to be an interesting career when I explained to him that, his first bloody lip was on his techniques, slipped off and hit the techniques and got a bloody lip. So that was when he was 7 months old. So it's, like I said, he's experienced. He's bookable too. If you guys have any kind of gigs and you want to book my son, he's available. DJ Nick. Yes, to a point. It doesn't change the dynamics as far as the final product. What it does do, though, is it lowers your yield on that plant. So say if you have a plant that you love, say you got a sour diesel or a kush or something, and you want to re-veg it, no problem. Again, similar to the same thing as the clones, you want to almost under maintain them than over maintain them, because when you cut them back, there's all this root down below, but there's not much above. So what I would normally do is take them out, like let them dry out a little bit, take them out of the pot, peel off the bottom parts of the roots, because again, the plants are not needing so much to root. Then I would transplant that into another pot, which has got a very light soil, and keep the watering really to a minimal, because there's not much to feed from the plant. So you kind of have to hit them very lightly, and you put them way in the corner, very low ambient light, and wait for them to re-veg. And when they re-veg, now the thing is, for the question, basically, that plant is not your greatest plant to be making cuttings from. What you should do is take that plant, take a cut off of that, reroot that one, and now turn that one into your mom. Because, for instance, you take a bunch of cuts off that re-vegged plant, the plant's already flowered, so it's already kind of got its rocks off, and it's not really that interested in another round, but it will do it, just because that's how it's programmed. So when you put it into flower, it flowers, but it produces a lot smaller buds, and you'll really notice the difference. Like the first round, you'll have some giant buds. Second round, they're a lot smaller. Same genetics, though. It doesn't change the dynamics of the plant in a sense. It changes the yield of the plant, and it's, again, not your desirable one to make cuts from. So, but if you take that cutting off of that plant and then grow that one out, it's a normal plant, so it'll actually produce the same yields as the original ones. If that answers the question, I guess, and that's... We have positive answer result there. I love re-vegging anyway. I mean, I think it's awesome experience to see plants that like technically would just die off in nature at that point, to be able to see them to come back, get a nice fresh cut. I mean, it's more than in one occasion I have had plants which have been so beat on that I just realized it's it's better to get a cut from that one and start all over again. and then sometimes you realize like there's not even a cut on this plant. I have to re-veg it. There's no way around it. So, you know, might take a month, might take longer. Sometimes it takes 2 months even to get a plant to just pop out a nice, fresh, healthy clone. I mean, there'll sometimes be these single leaves and twisted leaves and all sorts of things going on, but the plant's going through a lot of transformations at that point. So it's a beautiful thing though to see like a budded plant with fresh growth coming out of the bud, and then be able to know that you can take that now and just, you know, continue on with your endeavors.
Sage seems to have no burnout factor. What other strains have similar characteristics from the seeds?
Yeah, that's.
TH seeds.
I mean, that is one of the things I loved about Sage from day one, is that it has my ultimate long-term approval, you know, because I smoked it for 15 years in Amsterdam, straight, pretty much. Like, I mean, obviously I tried other strains all the time, but that was my mainstay from day one. That's so I was living proof that it didn't have a burnout factor. I mean, that's kind of one of those things where I think it's kind of a special quality within the plant. You notice it with like the Dark Star has a very similar quality to it like that too, where it's because it's kind of like it's a heavy, it's got a real heavy, thick kind of flavor and high to it, so it's definitely satisfying. And I think that's part of I think the key to the whole thing is that the flavor should have something to do with the overall experience. You know what I mean? The flavor and the smells should like hit the right tones, you know? So for instance, with Sage, first of all, you got the name Sage. So in your mind, you're thinking of something with a sagey quality to it. Then somebody smokes it with you and it has that sagey quality. So it's reinforcing. Whereas, so say if somebody gives you something and they're calling it like a, you know, blueberry or a berry flavor or a raspberry or something like that, and it doesn't actually taste anything like a raspberry or a blueberry, well, then you're pretty much dissatisfied at that point. So from a getting high point of view or from a burnout factor, that isn't gonna last. There's not gonna be any lasting qualities to that plant because you don't get reinforced after you smoke it. Like, yeah, that tastes just like blueberries. Even though people will tell me they have a strain that tastes just like, et cetera, they don't have it with them. So how do I know? But with the Sage, I swear, like over the years, it just kind of, it was funny to see because I'd smoked it with so many different people, and even though it's not the sweetest plant or it has a very sharp kind of vibe to it, for some people, the medicinal quality of it is so extreme, like it just hits it every single time. So then, it makes believers out of people, and I think that's the key to the whole thing is, you know, something that delivers what it's supposed to deliver, you know. The Lambo actually has a really, really good non-burnout factor too, especially with the hash. If you make hash from that plant, it's got like definitely something where you could see that being your mainstay for a long, long time, you know. I mean, I kind of like that's what I try to gravitate towards anyway, is I'm looking for strains that actually deliver kind of what you were hoping to deliver, you know. That's my key. And you know, I think the thing is too, when you're keeping strains around, a lot of times it's, you know, it's also the alpha female and the alpha male vibe of plants, and that's one thing with Sage is it's got that alpha female vibe to it, where it's like it knows it's a good plant. Like when you grow that thing out, if you let it go, it's about an 11-week plant. So if you let it go like another extra week or so, you will have bananas that pop out. But that's because the plant is so desperate to flower itself. It's like, all right, now come on, guys. It's 11, 12, you know, it's 12th hour basically. I'm going to try, you know, and it will just on that third push, it'll throw out 1 or 2 nanners, and then, you know, like it's really over at that point. But they won't have any chance to fertilize, so you'll be fine. You'll be fine, I guarantee. And the other thing about burning out on plants is a lot of times due to the fact that they have a very simple profile, you know, and that's one thing that's unique with the Sage is that it has a kind of a complex profile with the haze background, and that's the hit or miss thing. Like when you grow from seed, a pure haze from seed is about a 20% success rate as far as like hitting the actual growth pattern that you're looking for and the flavor and all of the above. Like a lot of the, especially with like Neville's haze and stuff, a lot of his stuff, it's legendary. Like when you get the right flavor, you're like, wow, this is all I'd want to grow. But then when you see the growth pattern, it's usually like Lester Grinspoon strain, you know, that's like literally calyxes and then on a stem and then another calyx, and on a, you know. So from a grower's point of view, totally not satisfying at all, like nightmare, you know what I mean? Just like, but when you actually finally smoke it, you do actually realize that, you know, there's a reason that these people are growing this really difficult to grow strain. So from a smoker's point of view, that might be a really satisfying strain, but it's not from a grower's point of view. And that's the one thing with sage, it has that double quality. It grows like an indica, tastes like a sativa, and has that non-burnout factor, which, you know, those are like key elements, I think, that almost any grower's you know, arsenal, really, because you definitely don't need to be burned out of your own strain. What's the point of that? You know what I mean? Might as well move on to the next. So that's, I think, just testimony on the fact that I'm still standing behind the strain after 20 years. It definitely says something, you know. And I wouldn't call myself Sage Master if I didn't think it was the best strain on the planet, pretty much. You know. But again, there's always a better thing out there, and that's the key to this whole industry. Is like my favorite thing doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the world's favorite thing. And from a haze point of view, it's definitely like sage has always been kind of on the underground because it's not as clear-cut haze as a lot of other strains are, because it doesn't have that real thin-leafed, long, equatorial sativa vibe to it. But the minute you light it, it changes. It's like a room changer. You know, all of a sudden, oh, what's that? You know, it's got that quality about it. So that's a lot of sage talk right there.
Do you believe in genetic drift in long-term mom plants?
No, not really. I believe in the plants are living organisms which pick up viruses and pick up diseases and are mistreated and sometimes take on the like, for instance, if they get a virus, well, that's in all the clones you ever make from that point on. You know, they don't disappear. So what happens is it's like a master tape. Back in the 70s, being a child of the 70s, I understand things like this. So maybe younger kids might not get this, but master tape was a metal tape that you'd buy, and you'd make your master off of that. Then you would make copies from the master tape. Now, if you had a very clean house with no dust, and you kept your master tapes in a case on a shelf with no light, probably have very good quality tapes. If you made your master tape on a cheap, you know, normal bias, crappy tape, well, then every single mistake that's on that tape is going to be replicated on every single tape that you make from that tape. And the same thing happens with the strains too. So if you're going to be making cuttings and you picked up a virus along the way, every single clone you do has got that virus. And so, for instance, maybe the leaf will curl. You get a little leaf curl or some sort of weird, and then that's what people associate with the drift. Oh, that's some genetic drift. No, it's just a plant's picked up a virus and it's coming out. It's expressing it on every single plant. So what happens is if somebody makes a copy from that one, well, they've just increased the problems again. And so it kind of goes on and on and on like that. And then, like, for instance, a lot of my strains are 20 years, 18 years, things like that. And so to even keep them around that long and not pick up something is almost impossible. So you have to fix the problem. You know, you have to hit them up with new males every so often, try to revitalize them a bit. But the drift part is not genetic drift, because that's not really a possibility. Is more, it's just the added mistakes that get repeated, and when they get copied, it can be a real mess, because you can imagine if you had, for instance, you know, layer upon layer upon layer of mistakes, and it's not going to look good. You know what I mean? You're going to pick up, if you could see it on a transparency and like look up at the layers, you'd see that every time you did a cut, you might have added another disease to this mother plant's life cycle, and then and because you're keeping the plant alive, it's not natural for the plant. So normally, like, they would die off, then the next year the seeds would grow, and then those ones would die off. It's just that's how plants normally work. So the fact that we're keeping them alive artificially for 20 years, which they're only allowed, they're only supposed to do it for a year, is like the chances of you then keeping it clean are pretty low, and that is where it comes down to. What you could do now, of course, is you could do tissue culture, and if you can manage to get your plant to go through all of the metamorphoses that it needs to do to start a new plant from tissue culture like that, then you would have a completely virus-free plant, because to get to that point, it really had to go through like a transformation as far as chemical baths, and it would have to start in agar and have to start all over again, and basically it would be is a possibility to scrub every single plant and scrub every single cell almost on that plant as it's going to the next phase, and then you would have virus-free plants. So that's a way to do it. But for the most part, like, sour diesel cut that you have, if it's the real sour D, then you're talking a lot about a mid-90s plant, which has been transferred from person to person to person to person for the last 20 years, plus that's a lot of passing around. You know what I mean? And like, if we had to keep anything else alive, chances are we wouldn't even waste our time usually. Like, really, going to keep this thing alive for 20 years? But because of the preciousness of this genetics, people have done that. So we've artificially kept these things going for 20 times past their normal cycle. So, I would expect there'll be some problems along the way. If that another question, hopefully answered. It's been a good question, Dan. I'm happy everyone keep them coming, because it keeps me rolling. I don't have to start making up a bunch of bullshit to fill in some gaps. But yeah, that's the benefit of growing from seed, and that's why I tell everybody, like, if you haven't grown from seed for a long time because you're nervous or afraid or whatever, it's usually because they're worried they're going to seed their crop out. And really, I mean, you have 2 weeks to figure it out from the day they start to show sex till the day they pop. So I think, if you're going to be in your room in those 2 weeks, say like 20 times during those 2 weeks, you should be able to spot a male flower before it actually does anything. So that is like the big concern everybody has. But the benefits that come out of growing from seed are just so much more immense that more people need to think about it, because if clones are great because you know what you got, but seeds are even better because you don't know what you got, and you could have something that's just awesome, and it would be your own. And then it's not like everybody down the street has it, you know what I mean? And I think that's where people are going to have to steer themselves a little bit towards in the next few years if they want to stay on top of their game. Because we all can get, it's elite strains are not so elite anymore. That's kind of an old way of thinking, because we're not so worried about. There's not as many hoarders out there as there used to be. There are, but they're not. There's not much benefit to it, because it's not like the days when people were spending $5,000 on a cut. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, those days are kind of over, I think. Maybe, there's somewhere out there someone's spending too much money, but for the most part, it's like CBD strains. That's what everybody's all looking at for now, and even that is going to become sort of like not a big deal after a while, because yes, everyone's hoarding, but at the same time, they're out there too. And I think one good thing about CBDs is I think it does bring out that side of people where they don't necessarily want to make money off it. Not everybody wants to make money from cannabis. A lot of people just like the idea that it benefits and empowers people and stuff. So I think for as many people, like, there's definitely enough people out there. Like, I know one friend of mine, he just drives around with a plant in his car and gives people cuts because of his Harlequin, because it's a high CBD plant. And he's, quite literally, he will not give it to you if he thinks you're going to do anything commercial with it, because he doesn't want that. He wants people to give it to their patients or to give it to, anybody that might need it. And the cool thing about the Harlequin strain is that the guy who sort of corralled it, I would say. I don't know. He didn't really breed it on purpose. I think it was just one of those things where it was growing. But he told this other friend of mine that every time he walked past that plant, the plant would tell him, like that he was special and he needed to come on. Like, so he literally like heard this plant talking to him and didn't know why he thought it was so special, and then tested it out, and it's amazing. It's 10.8% CBD, and I think it's 24% THC. So it's no wimpy plant. It's not it's not one of these high CBD, no THC things. It's actually, it should be 1-to-1. If you want to have the ultimate, it would be 1-to-1, I'd say. But still, the fact that it has both in both cannabinoids in such high quantities is pretty awesome. I mean, it's up in the 40% range of cannabinoids just on its own as a plant. So.
Is seed stock from around 2002 the same as present day seed stock?
Well, I still have the same male, and I still have the same female, what we call the S1. So as close as I can make it, let's say. Basically in 2002 was pretty much right around the same time I had my fires and stuff. So that was kind of like when all the stuff went down. But the sage was one of those things that I luckily had kind of gave to enough people to hold on to, because I knew that was one I could not afford to lose, as a plant. What you'll notice with most of the sage, I have a strain called S6, which is from the very, very first round of selection of sage. And I've still got that plant to kind of run parallel with whatever I'm doing as of now, so I can kind of keep an idea of how close we are to the original. And that S6, the reason it was such a nice plant is because it really does grow like a indica, but tastes like a sativa, and it's kind of like where I was shooting for, like that real 50-50 perfect combo, and that, yeah, it still seems to be sitting on that same zone. I mean, it's funny too, though, because back in the day it was such a unique flavor that I never saw anything that was like it, you know what I mean? But now, for instance, like the Durban poison cut that goes around here, that's the big yielding one or whatever, that it's so close to sage, I'm not even sure. I'm like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? So it's kind of like, I don't know, over time it seems like there's been a few strains. I'm not sure if they're interrelated or not, but they definitely seem to fit into that zone. So back in the day, it was so unique, I could definitely like just spot it out like that's it. I have been fooled many times lately, though. I'm like, really? Because that seems a lot like my sage, you know what I mean? So it's becoming a little more of a style of a plant almost. Like a lot of things, like things become their own thing. Like sours are now sours, Kushes are now Kushes. Back in the day, and there's going to be with the Kush, there's King's Kush and there's SFV and there's all the different cuts. So there's always going to be that. But in general, at a certain point, the people who aren't familiar with all the different strains of Kush, I mean, they're just kind of identifying Kush as Kush. And then back in the day, skunk was skunk and haze was haze. You know what I mean? So technically sage is almost becoming sage. It's not there yet, but it's definitely like there's a lot of people out there who get really used to it, and then they'll try something else and they'll be like, wow, that's tastes a lot like sage. It gets to become a type almost, which is nice. That means you got somewhere. Same with bubblegum back in the day, kind of had the same vibe. James, stop talking so much, please. Can't control this kid. So as you see, my number one never to arrive guest is not arrived yet, so chances are he may not ever arrive. But we'll see. So we have a big weekend coming up out in California. So I've already mentioned it once before, but I might as well re-mention it for any of my friends out there in San Francisco that want to come down and check us out. I will be there this Friday through Sunday at the Hood Lab at 1669. Hey, what's that? What do we got?
Will the global Swede vaults hold your seeds?
The Swede vaults, the weed vaults in Sweden. Yes, I hope so. I mean, there was a time when GW Pharmaceuticals was first coming out with all of their stuff, and they got a hold of our sage. I know this for a fact, and Now, I don't know how far it made it into their program, though. That was one of those things. But it was apparently it was a categorized as plant number 69, which I was like very impressed with. I was like, really? 69. Oh, there goes my camera. Oh, no, there goes the other thing. And yeah, so I would hope that, that as strains go, that it would be recognized enough to be in the vault, because I think that, it's in my vault at all times, so I don't know about the Swede vault, but it'll be in my vault. But in general, I think if they were to be smart about it, yeah, they would try to categorize as many strains as they could, not knowing the potential of what each strain is. And that is where we're at right now with a lot of our stuff is now that we have testing facilities and we can check these things out, we can get to the bottom of these things, because as we know, like a lot of times people have the assumption that they know what something is because they either grew it so many times or they, maybe they even developed it, but still it's hard to know what your starting point was. So I think give it a couple more years, and with all the categorization and stuff going on, we'll definitely have a top 100 strains that need to be in a vault. And my vote is for sage, so who knows? We'll see. But they don't give you any kind of confirmation. Like I've never got a call from somebody that said, "Hey, we got your sage. We got your sage in the vault." That'd be nice. It'd be great to get a little, idea if that's the reality or not. But
Josie says my buddy has had his sage mom under 24 hours of light since 2002. Should he change his regimen?
Well, you never really go against what works. That's how a lot of times these things go. And if he's had it that long, over 10 years, then I don't think he should change it. Normally, myself, I would keep my mom's under 18 hours. Sometimes I do my cuts under 24. That doesn't seem to affect them too bad. And also, you're trying to get things going as fast as possible. So, but it must be a pretty stressed out plant in its own right just to be under 24 hours for so long, it seems. But at the same time, you have tested probably every parameter of that, because the reality is like feminized strains, that's one of the things that we're always a big subject that gets out there all the time. To produce feminized strains, you need to stress the plant out to produce male flowers to then go on and continue the female information to get to the next cycle. So what happens is the plants that flip really easily tend to be the plants that are also the ones that you couldn't put under 24 hours because they would herm out on you after that. So it's almost like you're doing your own torture test to figure out whether or not these things are ever going to flip. And I don't think if they haven't gone all crazy on you in that long, then you should be fine. And like once again, that's a good way to test for stability within the plant. And if you have say you get a cut from that one sage that's been under 24 hours of light, and you put it into its first 12 hours of darkness, if the plant responded negatively, like it had herm flowers or something like that, well then obviously would have tossed it a long time ago. But the fact that it hasn't is a good indicator that plant is pretty much bulletproof when it comes to having problems with revegging due to light, things like that. And sage has been known to be pretty resilient for those kind of things. There's some strains out there though that aren't, and they'll really you get one pinpoint of light in your room and all of a sudden you have nanners and you've got seeds, and that's a disaster. So torture away. Keep torturing those plants, because it's a good way to figure it out, And I tell everybody, it's like, that's the one thing about cannabis in general, is that we are all experimenting on daily, and we probably have tens of millions of people out there in the world growing cannabis that are all doing their own little thing. And there's really not any other plant out there that has that many people doing it all on their own with their own finances, not government backed, and you're just going crazy with this plant trying to figure out everything about it. And it's pretty awesome to see, but definitely subjective to everybody's little experiments. And of course, everybody wants to, hype their own thing, and you got to kind of weed through it and figure it out. But yeah, it's great to hear when people do tell me stuff like that. Like they've been, okay, I wouldn't suggest it. It's not my way of growing, but it does show me strength within the strain itself. So thanks for torturing your sage, but don't change a good thing. But you could also, for instance, you could always try and see if it develops anything different. Because one of the things that I've noticed is whenever plants are under 24 hours, and then you flipped them into their dark cycle, sometimes they'd kind of hang up a little bit and they wouldn't quite know what to do because it's all new to them, Whereas when you eased into it from an 18-hour, 6-hour off, then they seem to kind of respond a little bit quicker. But it might only be a day or two too, so it's not an issue where I would say change everything because of that. I would definitely say stick with what you're doing if it's working out well. But try it. Why not? See if it, and maybe do some notes. Put the one next to each other and see how fast they flower, or how aggressively, or flower structure, or if there's any changes, and then give me an update. I would love it. So let's see, we got, hold on, my phone's blowing up here. I gotta see what's going down. Yeah, let's take a quick break and I will update you guys when hopefully Sheldon Reed will show up for once. Come on, Sheldon.
Canapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Canapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Canapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Canapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Canapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Canapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Canapunch difference.
Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 for all your insurance needs. Canisher understands the risks you face each day, and we are there to protect your business and your investment. Since 2010, Canisher has been serving the cannabis industry nationwide. Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 or visit us on the web at canisher.com to learn more about our insurance and risk management services. Proud member of the NCIA.
Independent Records and Videos has been your locally owned and operated choice for music, movies, and lifestyle accessories since 1978. Independent Records and Videos has 7 locations from Denver to Colorado Springs to Pueblo to serve your entertainment needs. Whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, smoking accessories, or hundreds of other fun and fanciful items, Independent is ready and waiting to make your dreams come true. We are always buying, selling, and trading vinyl, CDs, books, and DVDs, so sell yours and buy ours. Independent Records and Videos, your entertainment headquarters. Check us out at beindependent.com or on Facebook.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
This segment was brought to you by The Farm, a medical marijuana care center located at 2801 Iris Street in Boulder. The Farm carries premium cannabis, edibles, and Hummingbird brand products. Visit our new cannabis lifestyle store for your local artesian glass, vaporizers, and hemp clothing. The Farm has been serving Boulder since 2009. Isn't it time you come and see what we have to offer?
Green Faith Ministry is for spiritual guidance, MMJ information, and networking combined with compassionate care on the way to enlightenment with all Green Faith sacraments. Green Faith provides charity assistance, including medical and food throughout the year. Contact them at greenfaithministry.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
The Law Office of Edson Maton and Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson Maton and Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On Grass. Runongrass.com.
National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
And we are back. So, as I expected, probably won't get Mr. Reed in the studio. He's too highfalutin for us. But trying to get his friend Bobby B from Cottonmouth Kings on the show, so I'm waiting to see if I can get the digits for that. He has one of the 315 lights. We've had our guy sent it to him recently, so he's had a chance for at least 2 weeks now to sort of play around with it. So we'll see if we get his number. If we can, we'll give him a shout and check on the Cottonmouth Kings and see what they're up to. Maybe they're coming back our way, come play at the Hood Lab again. They've actually been there a few times and always good times, and we're definitely looking forward to them coming back. And I got my friend Vinny Collins coming into the studio to bring me all my stuff that I forgot. So it's then I'll be able to show you the gadgets that we got. We got one new gadget, and I'm a gadget guy, so I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. So hopefully within the next 20 minutes or so, he'll be in the studio and we'll be able to do a little show and tell. I think show and tell was one of those things that stoners. I think you can figure out what kid's going to be a stoner just by looking at show and tell. Like when they come to school, if they're really into it, it's going to be a stoner. I guarantee you. I don't know what it is, but every time I meet somebody now, it's like, I think because we all want to show our weed off and tell each other what's going on. Hey, yo. It's like weird. It's like because that was basically my favorite thing in school was show and tell, because I'd always bring the weirdest crap, freak people out. Like, what is that? That's my 100-year-old ivory whatever, and then some kid would try to grab it. All that stuff. But yeah, and then I had a guy who worked for me back in the day, and I mean, his whole life was show and tell. It was crazy. I'd be like, do you do any work around here? All you're doing is showing everybody. I'd be like, I'm going to show you this. So yeah, if your kid's into show and tell, watch out. He's going to be a big stoner, I can guarantee you. The spinning thing, everybody knows kids who spin around a lot probably going to be stoners too. I used to spin around a lot. I was a professional. I didn't even mess around. I was like, whatever, kid. I'll show you how to spin. I had my whole technique down, and I don't know. But it worked for me. You know what I mean? Hey, and Chris too. Chris was a professional.
That shit is funny.
Yeah. So, but it is true. I mean, we definitely have that in our it's in our genes, man. We can't help it. We just want to be altered. What's up?
Are seed banks trustworthy on keeping seeds in original breed packs?
You know, I don't want to flame too many companies out here, but I can tell you, I mean, we do work with Attitude and those guys, and they 100% are not switching anybody's seeds. They have no time for that. The ones that I would watch out for, there's a few Canadian seed banks out there that are definitely were doing that back in the day. I think a lot of it came down to just feeling like they were not going to ever deal with their customers. So if you're gonna buy seeds from any seed bank, I guess you should just check into the reviews of the customers that have already gone there, because they're going to be the ones who are going to kind of either tell you whether it's crap or not, because obviously the guys themselves are not going to tell you. But yeah, it's kind of sketchy whenever then they're not, if they're not in original breeders packs, I wouldn't buy them in the first place. That's pretty much the way I look at it, because there's way too much chance of mistakes to be happening. Even in the original breeders packs, there's chances of mistakes. You know what I mean? Because it's such a mass thing to try to organize all these things and keep them in order. And if it just takes one mislabeling to screw it all up. And of course, when people are not connected to the industry and they're just looking at dollars and cents, there's too much of a risk that they can just throw whatever they want into this one and hope that you don't know, and it all comes out in the end. That's how it is with anything. It's like it all comes out in the wash, And so if you buy a pack of so-called blueberries and they grow like 12 feet tall and have thin leaves and don't look anything, well, yeah, but there's plenty of the thing is there's so many resellers now that it's kind of hard for me to put my finger down and say like, yeah, this guy's good, this guy's bad, this guy's good. But I would just look at the relationship to the companies, how long they've been there, if these guys are just selling from everybody. Yeah, and if they're not in the original breeders packs, I just wouldn't buy them. That's just the way I would feel if I was going to spend money on it. Because even when I first went to Amsterdam and I saw seeds for sale for the first time in 1987 or 8, they were really expensive, but their packaging was terrible. So it was kind of like when I looked at it, I was like, really? How do I know? Same deal. And then Scentsy had theirs in pretty smart packaging, because their whole deal was if you opened up the pack, you could not reseal it. There was no way to reseal it. So I'd say if it's in any kind of resealable bag, then the breeders aren't really thinking ahead of outside the box, obviously, too. That's one thing with our seed packs. I always make sure that they're pretty much impossible to A, replicate, or B, replace, because I've got the tape on it, which will come off if you try to peel it off, and I've got it sealed up, but you can still see the seeds. I think packaging for seeds is one of those things where I took a lot of time, because I realized that was the number one complaint was, oh, this happened in my seeds or whatever. And even though we actually didn't even send seeds, I only sold seeds to other people who sold seeds on the internet or whatever. So I wasn't really worried about shipping myself, but just knowing that there's people out there that are complaining about it. So I decided to make sort of bulletproof packaging, which if you know TH Seeds packaging, it is extremely bulletproof. And I will demonstrate that one time soon. I would like to get pretty much everybody's breeders packs and see what they can handle, because I know for a fact TH Seeds will win that battle for sure. The battle of the seed packs. If you're going to buy seeds from the internet, always take into account that there's a lot of unknowns there, and But at the same time, it's made this industry what it is, as far as the ability for people to have genetics all over in these places that they would normally not. So, got to say, give thumbs up to that one. Thanks, Neville.
What's the best size screens for double sifting sage for dry sift?
So sizing on screens is kind of one of those confusing things because of the different ways to measure the screens, because you have inner holes and outer holes, and you have, for instance, if your threads are bigger, say you have really fat threads, then the holes are smaller. If you have thinner threads, then the inside diameter of the hole is bigger, and it's sometimes very hard to nail that one. So in Holland, for instance, where I was making it's where I pretty much learned how to do hash making, everything is running on a different sort of screen size. We call everything by T. So we would have, for instance, a 77T and a 43T. Now, a 43T is like 150 microns, and a 77, I think, is around a 220, something like that, or 200. And the idea being that the 150 micron is the sort of standard. That's like what you would use to get everything, most everything. That's pretty much the standard in most industry for most people. So then, so when you're doing dry sieve compared to water hash and stuff, there's a kind of a different technique. The idea being is that you're not necessarily trying to always put things through a screen. That's how everybody thinks it. Everyone thinks it's like, okay, I'm going to put it in here. It's going to go down here. It's going to go through this screen, get trapped onto this screen, and then through that screen, and then trapped onto this screen, and through this screen, and trapped. That's sort of the way it is, but there's more to it. And so when I was doing dry sieve, more or less early 90s, there was no water hash. We only did dry sieve. And one of the secrets that I had, which wasn't a huge secret, but it was that I was using two screens, lo and behold, but I wasn't using the screens to go through every time. So what would happen is I would run it through my 43T, which is like 150 micron, and then that gland that came through there there was perfect glands, and then there was a lot of dust, and there was a lot of crap inside of there. So, and like stalks. So what you do then is the next screen, you're looking, and this is also very strain specific, because if you have different size glands, you're going to need different size screens. So it was a little learning curve, but I kind of generalized it. And what it is you're letting it fall through the first screen. And then if you can imagine that you have a grid underneath it, and now the ball of resin falls through the first screen and it sits on top of the next screen. It doesn't fall through the next screen. It sits on top of it. And the dust and the crap that was around that ball and the sticks, they go through the screen. So what happens is you get a highs, and you take out the highs and you take out the lows, and you are left with the middle. And that's pretty much the best way to process dry sieve, because you're not always, it's not about smaller, and then there's always going to be like this prime level right in the middle. And so you need to figure out what that prime level is, and you need to filter everything from above it and everything from below it, and you will have yourself the cleanest resin possible. And there's a few other little secret techniques, which I'm maybe not going to tell right now, because there's even more ways to clean it. But that's a general idea, and that was taught to me by Rob Clark, who was on the show last week. The guy who wrote Marijuana Botany and Hashish, and now Cannabis Anthropology. Simple, but really, like, the difference between having something that's just standard and having something that's that much better, off the chart, really. So I don't know if that taught anybody anything. It should have taught you something, because that's actually been one of my little secrets from years and years of making hash, that there's not enough people doing dry sieve here to really notice this, because everybody here is going to be, there's no way to control it when you're in the water. In the water, it's free form. The stuff's falling, and it's going to end up in screen by screen by screen. You can't really play with it as much. When you do dry sieve, one of the things that was nice about it was it really came down to you and your timing and your ability to recognize the colors and the smells and all that. Much trickier than doing water hash, where it's more it is technique in the sense, but it's more, in my opinion, to make good water hash, you just got to work fast. You got to work really fast, and don't sit around and wait for the thing to do it for you. It doesn't work that way. You're pretty much nonstop working, because you're constantly trying to organize and keep things going. The minute you stop and sort of take a break and smoke a joint while the machine's on or whatever, then what happens is the moisture gets into the product and doesn't want to come out of the product. And the thing is, you're working with oily balls. Little oily balls. Sounds great, right? Oily balls. You're working with some oily balls, but you're working with little balls of oil, basically, that are surrounded, encapsulated, micro-encapsulated balls of oil. And so they don't get wet. on their own, but they do at a certain point. They can only handle the water for so long. So what happens is if you work really slowly, then moisture gets inside of that encapsulated trichome, and then it never comes out, and it tastes different, and it changes everything, and it starts to oxidize, and everything kind of goes downhill from there. So if you can work really quickly, what happens is those balls stay nice and tight balls, tight, oily balls. No, anyway, getting sidetracked there. I got excited, but the idea being is that if you work really fast, you're not going to have time for that to happen, and then the product that comes out has got that crispy, crunchy quality that we're all looking for whenever you're looking for good water hash. Like hash. The other thing that people don't realize is there's a lot of audio. There's a lot of audio hints of what quality you have, whether it be dropping a ball onto the table and watching it bounce and listening to it, or having it just stick to the table. That means it's got like some water in it. So there's like all these little clues and indicators that you need to do. It's not only about visuals, it's smell, it's visual, it's part of it is just feeling, and then it's the sound, and part of the sound will either be the snapping of the product, like, breaks nice, sounds better than if it just it's a bit gooey, and then there's also like the bouncing of the little resin ball on the table. That's also an indicator how high it bounces. Like, does it bounce? Does it actually bounce? That's good, and it's, does it shatter? The word shatter is now being overused, but technically good hash always was like that. It always had a glassy quality to it. It would break, and then you hold it in your hand, and it would get warm again, and you could turn it into a piece of a ball or whatever. Then you leave it on the table for a minute, cools down, and snaps again. So that would be the quality you're looking for. So it's not only in the shatter; it's in resin in general, and that's how resin works. So any other hash making questions out there? No, that's it. Well, I'm glad to see somebody's trying to do dry sieve out there too, though, because that is one of those lost arts, because everybody's so concentrated on concentrates, and that's kind of the way people get when, like, now everyone's fixed. Like, I've heard crazy prices in California for trim, just because even though the product has gone downhill in price wise, it seems like trim's going up in price and bud's going down in price, only because of the fact that there's so many people out there that want to make their own extracts. And there's just, obviously with the outdoor crops, that's going to be your this was a bumper year too, because of the feds not busting anybody hardly, because they weren't all out of work. So this year has become a bumper year. So I'm sure there's going to be a ton of extracts being made from outdoor crops in Cali, which is a beautiful thing, just because, full plant and full sun and all that. So it is going to be interesting to see what kind of qualities come out of there. I'm sure there's going to be some dynamite stuff. But at the same time, trim was always the way that we had made hash before, because, we weren't going to waste bud. But nowadays that MIPS and things have to produce all of their product from their, they have to do the whole plant or whatever. Then you really realize, like, everything's changed. Oh, hold on one sec. Vinny, just to tell him where he's at. So, it's like, I think that's going to be the interesting. It's going to be the interesting next few years with hash making in general, where there's like so much going down in the last few years here, but this is such an ancient art that it's almost like glass blowing, in the sense that people think they got something new and crazy, but it's like it's the same. It's just a new way of doing it.
Should trim be cured before dry sifting?
Yeah, for sure. The thing is with the glands themselves, if you look at them under a microscope, they look like they're hanging on by a thread sometimes onto the top of those things, and it's when they're fresh, they're still pretty strong on there. And so the longer you let them sit, then the more that the bottom of the thing closes down, and when it closes down totally, the head falls off. So cure it and then freeze it and keep it in the freezer after it's cured. So after it's all dried, and cured, but it doesn't have to be cured like as technically cured as bud does, because you actually don't mind if it's a little more brittle, because we're going to try to break it down as fast as possible. So you don't want it to be like perfect to smoke with, because that's actually too moist. You want it to be probably in the 10% range, whereas smoking more like 14 to 18% range. So dry, cured to a point, but realistically dried. And the idea, like whenever they make hash, and for instance in the hash growing regions, they would produce them around now or a little bit later, about a month from now. So imagine you harvest them in September and then you let them sit until around January. So there's a cure going on there, you know what I mean? And that's to make everything easier for them, because it's colder. They can get to the, cold weather is the best way to produce hash. So like if you're in Nepal or places like that, it's pretty hot in the summertime there, but in the winter it's obviously freezing because it's high altitude, and they'll benefit from just being able to process the material that much easier. Is there another question there?
Zong says, "What's up, Adam?" And sorry he missed the sale a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Pay double now. You know that. Everybody pays double. Now, yeah, well, sorry we missed you too, but we're having new ordering season coming up, so anybody out there who's got a shop who's looking to get into our hoodlum gear, starting January 1st, we'll be taking orders for next winter. That's how it goes in this industry. You need to order a year ahead. So also any big fans of Hoodlam out there that want to get themselves a sample set, we're offering that this year. So if you order ahead and you pay ahead, then next Christmas you can get yourself a complete sample set with every single item that Hoodlam makes, and or pick and choose your own. So get in touch with us if you ever get a chance to, and you're really down to get some more Hoodlum gear in here. Oh yeah, we got ourselves some toys. No, the controller's in the back of the car, in the trunk. Oh yeah, toys. Toys and oh my God, extracts and things. All right, so my friends over at Way to Grow, who are now sponsoring this show, and we'll be sponsoring some parties at the Hood Lab. I was there yesterday just checking it out. I like to always swing by the shops and see what's going down. And something caught my eye, so I was asked the owner, I was like, hey, what's going on here? And he told me that this is actually, they're the only shop in North America that has this product right now, which is interesting. I guess we're the beta city to see how these things work. And I'll just pull it up here and give you guys an idea. Oh, Christmas time's coming, you might want to get this for your grower friend. Now, okay, it is a track-mounted motorized lift system for your lights. Now, it may seem like a little overkill to have an automated thing to lift and lower your lights, but having been a grower for 20-plus years, I can definitely tell you that one of the bitches of growing in general is raising and lowering lights, just for the fact that you sometimes it's dangerous. There's times when I've been out there stretched out over my plants, and you really don't feel like you're feeling too safe where you're at, and it's not always the greatest idea. This one is, and especially now, this is where I really think this is awesome, is if you're a medical patient and you are in, for instance, in a wheelchair, or have a difficult time maneuvering and everything, then this is pretty awesome, because you could go. And also, one thing that I think is even more key is the fact that a lot of times when you're working in a room, you feel so tight because of where you're at. Now, if you can come in here, and this is another interesting thing too, this is the remote control that comes with it. And what's really cool is it runs 8 lights. So for instance, you could go in and raise your entire room, work in your room, and then lower it back down to where it needs to be every time you go in the room. You know what I mean? So that alone right there would be huge, because especially with a lot of the lights, the way they're set up, that people have almost zero ability to maneuver from spot to spot. And this would give you that ability to be able to pack the room in tight, lift the lights up, move the plants around, do what you need to do. I haven't even opened it up yet, so this is like one of those internet deals where the guy's like, I'm going to open up a brand new iPad. Oh my gosh. There, I got one here. So this thing is rated to hold up to 50 pounds. Oh yeah, the head's in the house. All right, look at that. So this thing is like in perfect demonstration mode right here. I don't even have to do nothing. Bum, 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 bum. So you see it has 2 motorized winches and one sort of receptor unit, whatever they call it. What do they call it? Receiver, sorry. Wireless receiver. Now, they also, what I was told was that you kind of have the ability, because one of the things that I was a little confused on was, like, imagine if you're trying to raise it and one motor goes a little bit off. It's going to get all crazy on you. And he said, no, what you got to do is there's like, you can pretty much manually unplug this unit right here, wait till it's up to the right spot, and then plug it back in, so you can kind of time it if they get off kilter a little bit. It says it holds 50 pounds, so I'll have to test it with my kid later, see if it lifts him. Probably get you some video for that. But once again, this is only available here in Colorado and only available at Way to Grow. They're about $80 for this unit right here, and I think it's $30 for the remote control, so it's $110 total. But you only need one controller for every 8 units. Pretty snazzy looking. Let's see, get another. I like how they displayed everything, so I don't have to do anything. It's like in the box. So basically you have like, a 40-light room. You got 8 of these things strapped to you. You're running around like a maniac. I'm not sure if that's the way they really expect it to be worked. But now I could see some interesting ways to use this too. Like if it can hold 50 pounds, then what I would say would be forget one light. Let's hook this thing up to 12 lights, put them on a frame, and raise and lower the whole frame. I mean, there's lots of options, So I will be testing this thoroughly, and I will get some video, and we'll see what we can do. I think I'll just do it at my house for the 315s. Did I just lose something there? No? Okay. It kind of sounded like I lost it. Here's my replacement for Flargle. He's way hotter. He looks way cooler. Oh, and he's down. But yeah, almost forgot my giant head today. Not quite. Luckily, Vinny came rolling in last second. Sheldon, we've been trying to get Sheldon in here for 4 weeks now. He ain't gonna happen, so we gave up on him. Oh no. Are these your cripplers?
They're pretty good.
Vinny's crippling cookies. Yeah. See that? You know how there's always a story that goes with all kinds of edibles or whatever, but no, Vinny can make some pretty strong stuff. I have to say, because I'm a non-believer until it happens, and when it happens, I'm then usually, can't deny reality, right? And we had an incident once where Vinny gave me some of his granola, which the last thing you really expect granola to be is strong, right? So then I ate some, and we had a party going on, and then I did a dab, and then I swear to God, it was like I totally forgot that I ate this thing earlier, and I thought this dab was like so strong that it was like unbelievably strong to the point where I was like, "What is going on here?" Sorry, and I had to go sort of like take a break in the other room and hope that nobody kind of saw me in the state that I was in. And it took me a while to figure it out. Like I really took a good hour and a half. And then there was a moment in time where I had like a little epiphany where I realized, oh, it's because I ate that granola. It was like, oh man. And then it was fine because before that I thought I was having a heart attack or I was having a stroke or something was going down because it was so physical. I didn't know what was going on. And so be careful there, Chris. Be careful. Be careful. So anyway, yeah, I'm sure everybody out there has a good edible story that's like your rite of passage almost into this world. And I mean, now tastes good.
Well,
That's the problem with Vinny's stuff. It always tastes too good. So, that is one of my things I tell everybody is like, if you're going to make edibles, they either got to taste like good, but there should be a moment where you sort of slow down because it's either too filling or it's too something. But when you make these little light, woofy, tasty things that you're just like, whoa. And then you get high, and then you get really hungry, and then there's nothing else to eat except for the edibles, and then you eat more. And it's a never-ending cycle, basically. It just keeps going and going. You're There you go. Done. So, anyway, not the greatest review because I can't really show it to you, but it's too hard to hook up. But I will keep you guys informed. The Sun Winch, I think, is going to be an interesting addition to most gardens that are, especially, like I said, if you're in any kind of situation where you can't lift a light yourself. I've got a friend of mine in California, and she's, mid-60s, and half the time she's waiting on people to come over to lift her lights or do something like that. And, if she could just go downstairs and click a button, beautiful thing, So from the people who need, people who need it, awesome. I don't expect that people are going to spend $80 on like 1,000 lights, spend $80,000 on raising their lights when they could just hire somebody to do it. Probably not. But like I said, small time home grower, awesome.
The price?
The price is about $80 for the main unit, and then you have to buy the remote because it's separate, and they run up to 8 lights, and that's $30. So it'll be $110 for the original one, and then $80 for every additional light up to 8, and then buy another remote and keep moving. If you get it past 8 lights and you need a new remote, you could probably pat yourself on the back because you've moved up to beyond 8 lights. You know what I mean? But this set 8 lights, I'd say that's a pretty good little setup. And it says it up to 50 pounds, so really it's not even up to 8 lights as far as the unit goes. It's just about the remote control. So technically 50 pounds is quite a lot, especially when you talk about a non, if you don't have any kind of ballast hooked up to it. If you're just doing the reflector and the light, you could probably put 50 lights on there. It wouldn't be so hard, So there's always a way to maximize it. And we'll see. I didn't get a message, I don't think, from did I get a message from where does my phone go to? Oh, you got my phone, right? See if Sheldon called, because we're still waiting to get a message from Bobby B. No?
Oh, message from Bobby B, maybe.
Is there a phone number on there? Nothing. Wow. Sheldon, you're the most unreliable guest ever. Come on now.
I just talked to him too.
Let's make this happen. Well, it's okay though. I've managed to drabble my way through this whole 2 hours pretty successfully. So, anybody else out there got any other crazy questions about hash making or growing or seeds or any of that?
Joe said thank you very much for answering his questions. He has to go.
Hey, thank you for asking questions. I love it. Keep them coming. It's we're getting into the Christmas time too, so I'm going to try to get as much product review in the next couple weeks. Hopefully, this will be something interesting to some people out there. It'll be like, hey, I know I got the thing for the guy who has everything. He does not have a Sun Winch. First shop in North America. That says something about Colorado, that they really want us to be their guinea pigs for this stuff. So I think if you got, maybe next week I'll ask them if we can give this. I'm taking this one. I'm sorry, guys. No one's getting this one, but I will give one away next week, hopefully, if I can, and for Christmas time. And we'll try to get a little. I might even give this one away. Who knows? You know what I mean? It's one of those. I get real possessed. I gotta have it. That's what I thought this was about. Me getting all this stuff, right? No, it's okay. Well,
couldn't you set it up for a full sun system where it goes up and down with the cross?
You could do it all, but this is literally just to do your adjustments. I mean, you don't want it to be going up and down all day. That'd be
not all day.
No, continuously up and down. The sun is rising. The sun is setting. The sun is going over your head. Yeah.
Set it on the whole thing.
That would be.
Bring on some moonlight, some black light at the end.
Yeah, some black light, some stars come up. A rooster every morning.
Somebody's going to do it.
Let's see.
Somebody probably has done it. It's all about the E now, I think.
Song asks, what's your preference, 70 or 20?
What's that?
Zong asked, what's your preference, 70 or 20?
70 or 20 in screen sizes? Or what are we talking about here?
I have no idea.
specify the 70s or 20s. Booyah, let's do it. Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show.
Hey, are you guys giving away that sun winch?
Not yet. I just said maybe next week. Jeez, relax. No.
I'm just giving you hell. I thought it would be funny to call in.
I thought you would think that was funny, wouldn't you? How you doing?
Okay, I'll turn that down.
Yeah, what's going on there? This echoey reverb. No, I need to test it first. You know.
Okay.
'Cause I want to make sure this. I would never want an unsafe product to go in the hands of the public. You know. So this thing could go out of control. You know what I mean? I could plug it in. It could start going up and down really fast and being crazy. So I just want to make sure.
Yes, so test it on your child first.
Yeah, of course. That's how you. That's what you do, right? You lift your child up with it. Well, he's way less than 50 pounds, so it should be fine.
Yeah, no, it'll be fine.
He'll be fine. We'll demonstrate today. We'll do a little flying circus at the shop today later. So
that'll be fun.
I'll make sure I post it online for you.
Yay.
Screen size. Okay, we're back to others' questions now. Is that all you needed to know? As if I was giving away stuff?
I was just wanting to mess with you.
I know you did. Thanks for that.
All right, you guys have a good afternoon.
All right, we'll see you later. See, give away free stuff. They're all over you. Free stuff. Free. I just said the word free for the first time I think ever on the show because I'm never saying free again. Stuff's too eager. They're too eager out there. But no, next week I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try next week. I'm gonna tell the guys at Way to Grow that I talked about it, and within seconds people were calling up. So that alone, thank you very much for giving us a angle to get you a free one. I'm sure you'll be the first caller if we do that too next week. So, but the added advantage of the sun winches thing, though, I think also is the fact that. People are always really everyone's putting the lights way down on the plants because they believe that that's always the best way. And I think then it just becomes laziness at a certain point. You don't want to raise them or lower them. And the plants are growing. That means they're growing into the light. So really, to have this, to be able to really keep your distance exactly where you want it would be huge because a lot of times it's the only way you know that they're too close is because the plants start to respond by throwing out re-veggers and getting a little weird on the tops and stuff. And so then you need to raise the light and then everything mellows out. Well, it'd be better to not have to get to that point, to just go, be able to go in every time and lower. And like I was saying earlier, just go in and raise all your lights and then go do your work and then lower them all back down again. That's key right there, because that is one of those things. I mean, I think I've banged my head a couple 100,000 times in rooms, and it's always a fun thing, especially when you're by yourself and you're just wow, you can only
changing buckets or doing whatever.
Yeah, anything like that, and it's just it's just key to the. I think it's key to the whole way of the room being able to flow better because you are. Kind of familiar with what you're doing because you raised it every day or lower it back every day. You're kind of on point, whereas if you just kind of hope to raise them whenever, you never do. You never do it in time, do you? Kind of grabbed you that one, huh? It's a good one.
Give a shout out to your sponsors.
Oh yes, shout out to all the sponsors. Well, we have two major sponsors right now. We got a bunch of other ones that are talking about it, but I haven't really got the full go-ahead. As I've mentioned many times on the show already, Way to Grow. There you go. Beautiful. Look at that. Way to Grow. Dropping us with these new products. Also representing at the lab. I think we're going to have some awesome new tent put up at the lab. Come by and check that out. The guys at Way to Grow have got a new 21,000 square foot facility, I should say, 24,000 square foot shop, probably the biggest one in North America is what I'm hearing, and it is right on Santa Fe. I have to get the numbers and stuff. I'm not very good at that. I'm terrible at getting all the things, but easy enough to find. Catty corner from the Breakfast King, which is a pretty major spot there on Mississippi. It's just right off the corner of Mississippi and Santa Fe, so it's really easy to spot. At 21,000 square feet, you should be able to spot it. Big green building, and awesome place though. They definitely got everything you need, and they can beat anybody's prices. So take a look to them if you're interested in buying any new products. They do have the 315 lights there. They have got them in stock, and they are plug and play, ready to go. So take a look, give us a call, and always tell them that the Adam Dunn Show is why you're there. If you get, I think you get extra special treatment. That's what I heard. I heard from a few people. They mentioned my name. Good treatment. And we've got ourselves at Boulder Wellness. Always taking care of us. Thank you, guys. Growing a bunch of our strains, which is great. Love to see it. Was down there yesterday checking out the garden. It was awesome. Love to see our stuff in full bloom and anticipation of what's to come. So if you're ever in Boulder Wellness, they're on Arapahoe and around 58th, and they are open, I think, like all shops till 7, but super helpful, great staff, great weed all the time, and just good people. That's what we like to work with. That is our motto. Good people, right? Well, we have 200 mottos. We don't even know it. We don't even know what our mottos are these days. But so secret cup. I'm like, thanks. Well, there was a secret cup. Now it's not a secret anymore. Vinny blew it. Told everybody.
I know the cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag. Actually, the secret cup will be going down this Saturday at the what's it called? Grow Supply. Yeah. Across from Big Grow Supply, which is right off of Brighton Boulevard.
They're gonna have shuttles from the Coliseum.
Every 5 minutes. I don't know. It's only going to be like across the street realistically, but that will be going down Saturday night. Finals of the Secret Cup. We had Dan here last time when they were in town for the semifinals. Pretty interesting. We got basically extract artists from all over the country descending onto Denver this week. It's going to be pretty nuts. They're all here to see who produces, and this is like a People's Choice Award. It's not based on just like going on numbers and trying to work on it. It's kind of a lot of it's an interesting concept because the idea is the people who are in the competition are also the judging competition. So it's really like, it's a very cool concept because it's the experts, judging themselves, and it's kind of the way the cannabis industry has always worked. It's very self-regulating, and a lot of it's down to it. It's sometimes it is a popularity contest when you do some of these bigger contests, but a lot of times, like this one, is strictly pretty much down to quality. And I mean, everybody's not out to, we're not. It's not as competitive because the people are private people growing and private people producing. So there's not this whole industry edge going behind it, which is awesome. And it's just, it's a good way to get people together from literally all over the world coming together for this competition. And it's going to go global. So probably going to come somewhere near you if you're not in Colorado yourself. These guys were all over the states this year, and I think it's just going to expand and get to more and more states, especially as more states go medical and recreational, hopefully. That's the way things go. And
there'll be some booths there.
There's going to be plenty of booths. I think there's 50 booths, so that's quite a lot. I mean, there's going to be companies there representing, but as far as the actual competition, it's mostly down to individuals from all over who have mastered their craft. And this industry is interesting too because, like, I started making hash in '93, and there was no water hash; it was still just dry sieve, and didn't ever think that this industry would get so big because even in Amsterdam, where there was, thousands of people coming every day to smoke cannabis, there wasn't that many people actually producing any hash, So you had to have the product to begin with. That's also part of the deal. So first you need to have the product. And
I've heard rumors.
Well, to make hash in general, you need to have a lot of extra material lying around. And, then it works from that point. It works from having the material, having the time, having the skill set, and then, being able to follow through with it all. So it's definitely great to see that now there's a whole generation of hash producers who are, maybe skipping a few steps. That's one of the things. I think a lot of them need to learn the basics, which that's one of the reasons I'm glad to see people out there doing dry sieve, because you're going to learn a lot more. And you also have less. One thing about dry sieve in general is like it ages much better. Water hash doesn't age so well. So people who actually produce dry sieve can sit on a piece of hash for 10 years literally and still smoke it. Whereas water hash, we have yet to see. There's no 10-year-old piece of butane hash out there yet. Probably never will be because everyone's smoking so fast. But that is been part of the deal. Is like
Joey had some.
In general, if you back in the day, a big piece of Afghani hash or something, it was a kilo or something. So there's a very easy for someone to put away 100 grams and stash it for 10 years. But with most of the extracts coming out nowadays, even on a big run, to get 100 grams a day or 1,000 grams a day, just running nonstop. It's probably sold before it's even made. You know what I mean? That's how crazy this product is. It's so desirable that we're not going to get a chance to even see a piece sit on probably for a while, unless some couple collectors out there. But what I've noticed was that was one of the things about water hash in general is the integrity of the product was reduced so quickly because of the water. As a long-term storage thing, that it almost was an indicator to me that this could ruin, like when water hash first hit the market, I thought it could ruin the whole industry in a sense because nobody knew how to store this stuff properly. It was like always a problem. You'd make a really beautiful piece of hash, and then 3 months later when you went back to it to look at it, it was all like falling apart, looked crappy, didn't have the right smell anymore, didn't do the same things, you know what I mean? Because the water molecules have now evaporated, therefore there was no integrity in this product. And the butane is more stable because it's taking out as much water as possible, obviously. So there is stability within it, but then as we all know, temperature plays a huge part. So all of a sudden you've got a beautiful piece of hash or a piece of shatter, and it gets a little corner starts to butter up on it, and then a week later it's all butter. So there's storage problems within all this, and that's one of the reasons why original hash was so successful. Was that once you made a good piece of hash, it was a naturally preserved piece. So it didn't have to be kept in any kind of crazy conditions. Obviously you would keep it wrapped up so moisture wouldn't come out of it or whatever, but in general that wouldn't change, you know what I mean? It would actually get better. It would cure and become better and better and better. And so I know Scott from Rare Dankness he was in Amsterdam recently and smoked some of the same hash that I smoked when I was there 10 years ago too, because it's 10 plus years old as we speak. And there was 10-year-old pieces when I was there. And so he's smoking 10 years. So he's probably smoking the stuff that just came out when I was smoking 10 years ago, because I was smoking the 10-year-old at that point. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's probably the same piece of hash, same chunk, just came out of the vault basically. And so it's pretty awesome to see that that things can last that long and still have the flavor and the terps and all the things that was there to begin with. And water hash and doesn't quite have the same long-lasting capabilities. That's one of the reasons why it has to be consumed quickly, which never seems to be a problem. It's always like, oh, hey. But was there any other questions there? No. We got a minute left. So any more questions? You got 1 minute to throw down on me. Otherwise, we're going to have to end this one. We gave shout outs to our sponsors. Got to give a shout out to my wife, Cece, my baby, Nick, DJ Nick. What's that? Coffin bags, which are never going to show up. I don't know. All I have is this thing. I never have this is it. This is all I get. Coffin. There's my head. So coffin bags coming to me one day and then to you some other day. But come on, Sheldon. Let's get this. Got one. Dred's got one. That's the only person who's got one out there that I
see 3 of them today, though.
Ooh,
they got sold.
It's terrible when you want something. That's when you start to see it everywhere. Everyone's got one. Anyway, Coffins will be here next week because I'm going to guarantee it every week until he comes. Guaranteed. Last week I guaranteed he didn't show up, so that probably shows how good my guarantees are. But this time he's coming. I swear. My big head will be here every week. And like I said, shout out to my wife, my baby, my mom, all holding it down up on Blue Mountain for us. And another shout out to my incredible co-host, James, who's interrupted me at least 200 times this show. Sorry for all that. I know it was confusing. And Flargle, whenever he comes home, come home, Flargle. We miss you. We need to have somebody to make fun.
To shows. I got some.
Oh, good. At least he's doing stuff while he's there. But I will see you on Friday. Pick me up at the airport. at the San Francisco. And if anybody there in San Francisco wants to come down 1669 check out the Hood Lab SF version. I will be there with CC this weekend, and we'll say hi. See you next week. Thanks, guys. Boom.